Football team returns home to host number 7 Nebraska on Saturday. Game will kick off at 6 p.m., be televised by ESPN. Head coach Paul Chryst is here. We'll have some opening comments and take questions.
Well, certainly looking forward to being back home and getting to play against another really good opponent in Nebraska. And yet before I go on with them, I think everyone got the news about Sitch. And, I feel once again, there's a guy that I loved the way he played and put it out there. And we actually talked about that yesterday. And he brought it up and that, he's glad. He goes, I'm glad I played the way I did. He goes, I didn't cheat it at all, and he did. He put it all out there, and you feel bad for him missing, these opportunities to play. And that's really what it comes down to, the schedule. We're going to play the schedule, and yet for each of these kids, and we've had a number of them that miss opportunities to play, and that's what you feel bad for. But he'll still have a big impact on our team, and he's still part of the team. It's just his role will be a little bit different. But love the way that he played, and he'll come back and still be a significant part of. He'll have some more moments to play, but it's appreciate what he did, and yet. It's going to be opportunities for others, and we've got a heck of a challenge this week. And yet, if our guys just keep maximizing the week and doing that day by day, they'll give us a chance. And looking forward to this week of preparation and getting to be able to play back in Camp Randall.
Jeff.
Well, we talked about this after the game, his willingness to keep playing, obviously. But do you know? Did his willingness to keep playing affect the shoulder more than if he would have sat out at halftime?
No, I don't. Nothing like that would have. He didn't hurt it worse by doing that. I do know that.
Jason.
Well, Nebraska's given up a lot fewer big plays this season than last. On film, where have you kind of seen the defensive improvement on their team?
Well, I think it's you see it across the board. I think they're playing really good team defense. And I think they've got good players doing that, and I know they're well coached, and so I think it's a group that's playing with confidence. And I think they're, last year I remember getting ready for them, and you just see some, those big plays you're talking about, and you don't see them this year. I think they're just playing really good defense right now.
Gennaro.
Coach, you add losing Jack to having already lost Chryst for this season. It seems kind of self-explanatory, but how much of a blow is it, especially with the energy that Jack?
Well, I mean, you miss those guys playing, and if you were to say anything else, you'd be lying. You wouldn't be doing justice to them. And yet, you know what, there's great excitement. You look at it and say, okay, now whether it's Ryan Conley or Leon Jacobs, or you get an opportunity, and so you're excited for the kid there. But those are two guys that started our first game, right? And so you can't answer that one in the sense of course you're going to miss them. You're missing two starters and two emotional guys, leaders of your team, and yet they're still on the team. They're still part of it, and they can still give us some of that too. But it's always a little bit different when you're playing and when you're not. But it's also an opportunity for others to step up.
Jesse.
Well, do you think there's something special about this defense that no matter which starter has gone down, there hasn't been any drop-off? And is it depth? Is it something else you can pinpoint about this crew?
Well, I think that, it's been a group that they really enjoy playing. And when I said that means they take time to prepare. And I think the defensive coach has been doing a really good job of giving them plans that they can execute, that give them a chance to have success. And and then you got to go out and you got to play, and that's where the group likes playing, and it's certainly a combination. There's talent, and there's a chemistry to it, and I think there's a good scheme to it, and yet that's what's beautiful about sports is we're going to be tested in a different way this week than we have up to this point. I think with what Nebraska does offensively, and so there's a challenge that we've got to rise up to, and but I think it's a combination of a lot of things that have given us where the chance or where we've been successful, but that doesn't guarantee anything going forward. And that's what's great about sports. You got to keep doing it.
Paul, what have you seen from Mike Riley and how he's turned Nebraska around so quickly in his second year?
I think Mike's, and I don't know, not being there, but just in the times I've talked with him, he's stayed the course, and he doesn't sound any different when I talk to him this fall or in the summer or in the winter or last year during the fall. It's consistent, and I think things are they're doing last year was how they lost those early games. It's pretty unique, I think, in many ways, but I think he stayed the course, and I think they've got good players, and so I think that's how he's done it, is just by being true to himself and what they believe in.
Jason.
Paul, looks like you're going to have to use Connor Sheehy at nose again this week. What did you feel like you saw from him shifting over against Iowa? Do you feel like he played well?
Yeah, he was good, and Connor's done that before. Last year did it, and so I thought he was good, and Chikwe was good, Alec was good. I think they play off each other, and we're still gonna need Garrett to he's gonna be a big part of it, and Billy will step in there, but Connor was good.
Jeff.
Paul, you guys got your backs involved in the passing game. I think at least number of catches at a higher number this week than before. How much of that was predetermined going in, or did it just play out that way based on what Iowa likes to do defensively?
I think it's a little both. That they were part of the. You weren't shocked to see the ball going to them, so I think it was and yet you never know quite how it plays out and what they're doing to you defensively. But I think it was a little bit of both, that the coverage dictated to where it go to them, and there's also a plan to have them in those situations that they're likely to get some balls.
Zach.
Paul, you guys used 8 offensive linemen on Saturday against Iowa, a bunch of different combinations. I know some of it's based on health, but are you closer to finding your 5? And if not, do you envision a similar rotation this week?
Yep. I think that we are working through that, and some of it is driven off of health. And then as they go and get their opportunities, what they're doing with them. So it really is a combination, I think, of both those, and still trying to give ourselves the best chance. And that's the one thing that I really believe now as much as ever before, and that for us to be the best we can be and want to keep working so we can be the best team at the end of the year that we can be, we're going to need a lot of guys. And some of that's with youth or inexperience. Can they handle 80 plays? And maybe they can, maybe they can't. And so I think we just got to keep working and trying to develop guys and get them going. I think the O-line's part of that. I think that you see it across the board. And so we've got to do a great job of getting everyone better, helping them get themselves better, and because I think we're going to need a lot of bodies as we finish this thing.
Andy?
Paul, you've had significantly more big plays here the last 2 weeks compared to your first 5 games. Why is that?
I think that, if you talk about the run game, we've had a couple. Corey made some guys miss on the one last week, and I thought we had a pretty good, coming out against 2 weeks ago. We're backed up, and guys executed and had a nice block downfield, and Corey made a guy miss. In the passing game, we connected. I think we've had a lot of opportunities, but we haven't always been connecting on them. So I think it's probably just, we're not changing the number of calls or trying to manufacture any more or less. I think we're just maybe a little bit more opportunistic. And I still think, the one, Kyle had pretty base play and yet was able to get, turn it into a pretty good run after the catch. Still feel like we're not real explosive yet. We got a long ways to go.
Jesse.
Paul, moving forward, how will you decide if or when to use Bart Houston in games? Is it something where you say we want him 1 drive and a half, or is it a feel thing when you look at how Alex is playing? How do you decide that moving forward?
Just whatever's, I think the quarterback position has to be it's a big part of our offense, and whatever we can from that room, those 2 guys to give us the best chance. And so I think kind of as the game plans come out and as you go, and we'll figure it out.
Back, Ryan.
Paul, Leo, and Vince were wearing the Got Grit shirts today. What was the reason behind that, and what does Got Grit mean to you?
That was a shirt they got in their locker. I think that's why they're wearing it. And I'm not going to go into what I told them, but I think grit's something that is important, and I think that there's a lot of guys in this team that have it, and I don't know. Let them talk about it.
Jason.
Well, you're one of the least penalized teams in the country. How much pride do you guys take or I guess you as a coach and then you guys as a program in playing clean games like you did on Saturday?
Well, I think you're always striving. I think that's a way that you can give yourselves the best chance to have a chance. And I think if you respect the game and you want to coach within the rules, and so it's important for a lot of reasons. And yeah, I think we still got to keep going. But it's I think we all know. I mean, if you take, penalties can hurt you, and so we stress it because we want to give ourselves the best chance.
Gennaro.
Hey, Paul, what's your assessment of where the red zone offense is right now, especially after the last couple of games?
It's got to be better, and especially when you're playing in close games, those matter, and whether it's taking advantage of them or not. If you don't take advantage of those opportunities, how many times you can get back down there? And there's some controllables. There's some things that's execution, and those are things we've got to own. And it can be the difference between winning and losing, and whether you win, but maybe not by as big a margin as you could have possibly done, or whether you come up short. But it's really important, and you asked about my assessment. I mean, with the question that it's not where it should be. And so I think what we need to do is, like anything that's not where it should be or that you'd like it to be, you got to identify what it is, find out how to help the kids take that step forward and work on it. And then when you get in that position again, you hope that we've now corrected it or improved on it. So I think that's where you try to focus. Red zone is obviously one of them, but you could say that on so many things, whether it's protection, whether it's leveraging the ball on defense. Those are the things that how can we help the kids get better? You have to take a look at the film, kind of who you are, what you've been doing, and give them tangible things that they can work on, and one of which would be certainly the red zone.
I think Wisconsin and Nebraska have developed a pretty good rivalry since they joined the league, and if so, what makes it one?
Well, I think that it's two really good programs, and if you just look at the games that have been played, I think you always have a natural rivalry when the games mean something, when there's a something on the line. I think that you look at it and the number of good players involved with it, adds to it. So I think there's all those reasons. A ton of respect for them and their program, and I think the biggest thing is the games have been important and they've been good games.
Jeff?
Paul, I don't know if script is the proper word to use, but how do you plan to use so many different offensive line combinations going into a game, and how do you know when to pull how do you decide when to pull the trigger as the game is flowing?
We script it out. I mean, we've had a lot of practice preparing for it because of the circumstances, and I think your question's right. I mean, you don't want to. We're not doing it to try to invent something that's maybe doesn't need to be there. But when some of these have been when someone's hurt, we got to go and there is a philosophy of you want to try to get your best players on the field, and yet you have to balance. Not every lineman is a center, or not everyone's a tackle. But I think really it's been all, really it started in spring. So you end up just working through it, and you want to be fair to the kids, and you want them to know how to prepare and what they're preparing for. And, last week it wasn't until really Thursday, kind of Friday, that, John had done enough that he felt like he could go, and therefore Rudy checked with Michael, and if this does that, so there's a balancing act to it. But I think it's been out of necessity, and so they kind of have been practicing what we've been doing because of the different circumstances.
Jason?
Paul, would you like to get your freshman wide receivers a little more involved the second half of the season, and do you think how much more ready do you think they are for a bigger, contributing more than they were maybe a couple months ago?
Yeah, I think that they're continuing to grow and develop, and I thought, pretty involved when the impact that QT had in the one catch, and really I thought AJ, we had jet sweep. I thought he made some guys miss, and they're doing stuff on special teams. They're doing, you can't just script and say the ball's got to go here. I mean, they're part of the plan. And so I like what they're doing. I like the way they're growing. They are still growing. There's some, mistakes that can get cleaned up. And so not disappointed with their progress, and yet didn't spend yesterday and today saying, okay, how can we do this for him or, AJ or QT.
Do you have any experience to draw on with using two quarterbacks?
A little bit. We're at Oregon State, but not a ton. I've really been a lot of situations where you've had that guy, and there's been I think this is for me, it's been a little bit different, and really just, I've said it all along that the first part was to try to make sure that both Alex and Bart could be ready for the season. They could give us something, add value to the team. And I thought they did that, and particularly coming out of fall camp. And then I thought both have done some good things. I think both have, even this last week, I thought both really contributed positives, and both did some things where we can clean it up. And part of me is like, you know what? Don't put it all on one guy. Let them share it. and I think might be good for this team.
Jesse.
Well, what's the biggest area of development you've seen from Troy Fumagalli, and was that touchdown Saturday kind of showcasing his full capabilities?
The touchdown was big. I don't know about showcasing it because he caught it, and I knew Fum could catch the ball. And, you know, I liked his determination to finish, you know, but I've seen that before, but maybe how many times you get that in a game when you're in that setting. So much of what you see in a game, we've probably seen a lot in practice, but the way it plays out, maybe it's the first time that people get to see it. I've loved the way that he's worked and continues to grow, and as he's doing that, he's trying to learn the game and kind of broadening his picture, and I still think he can get better, you know, and I like that thought.
Jason.
Well, your receiver group as a whole, what areas would you like to see them improve?
I mean, I think you could go across the board. You know what I mean? I think that there's not one position I'd say about that we've arrived. You know what I mean? So I think you'd like to see him in the route running. You'd like to see him in finishing some plays. You'd like to see him in the run blocking. And I could say that, flip it and say the same thing about any position. You know, so I don't feel like any group's arrived.
Zach.
Paul, you talked about using a lot of different bodies going down the stretch. Is that hold true at running back? I know Bradrick has gotten a couple carries late in games the past 2 times. Do you want to maybe work him in a little bit? I think Corey's got like 60 carries the last 2 games.
Yeah, you know, it's I think all the guys that earn the right to play, and I think Bradrick's done that. And when he's had his opportunities, he's taken advantage of them. And you know, I think we'll always be using, you know, if you can, the number of times we haven't used, you know, 2, 3, 4 backs, you know, it's probably very few, you know. So I think that he's done some good things, and that helps him put himself in a position that you kind of earn the right for more. So I think that would be accurate.
Anything else for Coach?
All right, thanks.